Bill Belichick was also asked today, and I'm paraphrasing, the assumption is next year you'll be back leading this team next year, and he said that assumption is correct. So Bill Belichick, you know, still coaching the Patriots going forward. How confident should we be in that, Bert, going forward?
Well, you know, I think if they had the sort of offseason they did this year, then, you know, I think you got a lot to be optimistic about. And I felt all along that it was going to be a 2 offseason rebuilding job. I think I have a lower opinion than most people do of where the roster was last year. I think it was one of the 10 worst rosters in all of football. And so I really always viewed this as a rebuild that was going to take about 2 offseasons. I think it showed up last night. You know, I think if you look at what happened in the secondary after they traded Stephon Gilmore, I think if you really looked at it, they were probably 1 injury away from a disaster back there. And I think that came to pass with Jalen Mills going down and what they were left with at corner without Gilmore, of course, there. And the team speed isn't where it needs to be on defense either. And so, guys, I just look at this, and I think there was such a massive rebuild that was needed after 2020. They did a really good job in the 2021 offseason, but I never really felt like this was a one-off season rebuilding job. I thought it was going to take more than that.
Okay, how about coaching style, though? Okay, we talked about this earlier. Bill not going for it on that 4th and short. Now, there's some nerd stats out there. The nerds tell you to go for it, go for it, go for it. So I'm reluctant to repeat some nerd tweets. But anyway, I don't even know what that is. I don't care. Here's what they say. A 4th and 1 punt by Belichick wasn't surprising, but it was a bad decision, say the nerds. Punting decreased the Patriots' pre-snap win probability by 3%, a nearly 20% relative decrease. I don't get what that means. New England was down 14-0 and already below 20% win probability. You can take those win probabilities and literally shove them up your backside, but we all agree they should have gone for it, Ted. And you think, and we were just talking about this off the air, Bill Belichick still coaches his team like he's got a great defense and Tom Brady at quarterback, and he's going to have to realize he's got a different team.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the only thing where I'm not as optimistic as maybe Bert is with Bill going forward, because I'm seeing trends that are a little bit disturbing. The last 3 years, this team has gotten worse as the season has gone on. So this isn't a one-off. It isn't even just last year and this year. This is a 3-year trend to see that. And then also this year, I thought it was interesting that, okay, maybe early in the season, there was times when you didn't go for it. You weren't aggressive against Tampa Bay and Dallas, and that might have cost you, Bill. But then you saw it, I think, maybe cost you in the biggest game of the season when everything was on the line. And you know what's interesting, because you talk about the nerds, Felge, is the original OG nerd is Bill Belichick. he was into analytics before anybody else was in football, yet he doesn't use them to his advantage. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, so, you know, it's one thing when you have a great defense, you can turn it over to the other side, and your defense is going to get stopped, or you have Tom Brady to bail you out.
There you go.
You have neither, and I still feel like he's managing some of these situations like he's waiting for the opponent just to screw up or those two things to bail him out, and they aren't happening anymore. Speaking of the quarterback, Mac Jones, since the bye, Bert, all right, since the bye, he, like the team, has faltered. 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, just over 60% completion percentage, which for him is low, all right. What should the confidence level be in Mac Jones going forward, Bert?
I think I'm convinced he can be a good player. I'm not convinced he can be a great player. I think my biggest concern right now would be maybe that he's Andy Dalton. And I'd like you guys to go back and look at this after the show. Look at the 2011 Cincinnati Bengals season. It's almost identical to the season the Patriots just had. Rough start, winning streak in the middle of the year, tailed off at the end of the year, got blown out in the playoffs. And I just think with quarterbacks like this, the biggest concern, because these guys do come in heady and ready to go and all the rest of it, is how much more is there? This guy was so well coached in college, had such good talent around him, had such a good infrastructure at Alabama. You wonder how much room there is left for growth here. So I feel confident that he's a good quarterback. I feel confident you're going to be able to win with him while he's on his rookie contract and he's still not making much money. You know, my concern is probably 3 or 4 years from now. And if he's able to level up and put you in position to compete with what's going to be there in the AFC, which is Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, Justin Herbert in Los Angeles, Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, and of course, Josh Allen in Buffalo. Long term, can he compete with that? We'll see. I think for right now, he's a good quarterback who can play at a high level if a lot of things are right around.
Man, that scares me. Andy Dalton, 2011, that doesn't blow my skirt up right there. But I'll say the thing that worries me a little bit with Mac Jones, if you were to tell me that Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick was going to be his coach for the next 5 years, I'd feel a lot better about it. So I feel like that's how important Josh McDaniels is to the growth of this kid. But there's a definite ceiling with him right now. And is this team built right now, as it's currently constructed, to make me get the best out of Mac, you got to have weapons. He's not going to run. He's not going to, move the chains with his feet. You better get more dynamic playmakers. And Bill's never been a big fan of that.
Next question. Do you focus on building the defense in the offseason or the offense?
Go get it. You know what? I'm pro defense, and this team's always hung its hat on defense. I don't know. I watch the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm like, can I just get a team that looks something like that? That's today's NFL, right, Bert? I mean, speed, just get the ball out to your playmakers. And that's what the Patriots, I think, at the end of the day, Michael and Bert, that's what they need to do more than, I think, getting guys on defense.
Bert, wait a minute. You have a quarterback in the division that is taking a steaming dump on you every time you take the field, and you're going to go out and get wide receivers and things like that. Don't you have to build the defense to stop Josh Allen?
So, Mike, here I think part of the problem is people here have been lulled to sleep by what Tom Brady was able to do, that he was able to win with less so many years, right? Like, and we all remember the years like 06 after they lost Branch and Gibbons, and how Tom Brady was able to make it work with guys like Rashae Caldwell. And I mean, without like a true number one receiver over the years. But if you look at what these teams are doing and how you compete at the highest level, the Bills go out and get Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen. The Bengals go out and get Jamar Chase for Joe Burrow. The Chargers have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen for Justin Herbert. I think you have to do both. Like, they've got a lot of nice complementary weapons for Mac Jones here. A lot of guys who are nice number 2 and number 3 type of weapons. And in the Tom Brady area, you could win that way because Tom Brady's such a great player. I think you need that number 1 guy to sort of put everybody else over the top so everybody can be in their proper spot in the offense.
Okay.
So, like, I think you find a way to get a number 1 weapon, and then on top of that, you have to get younger and faster on defense, because I think that 3-year trend you guys are pointing to, in 19 and 21, the defense looked the same. Early on, they looked great, heady, older, veteran, and over time, they started to look old and slow. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that you still have a lot of the same guys that you had winning championships for you in 14 and 16 and 18, and those guys aren't young anymore.
Okay. Beggars can't be choosers. Robert Kraft dropped $140 million guaranteed last year, over $200 million in salaries in last year's free agency. You want them to go out and get a number 1 receiver and build the no, you don't get it all.
You have to hit on draft picks, Mike. You have to hit on draft picks. That's where it is now. You have to hit on draft picks because you've spent the free agent money. Now maybe you can go get a number 1 receiver with some of the money you have left over. You're going to have to figure out what to do with J.C. Jackson. But when I'm saying you get younger on defense, that means not going out and buying help. That means going out and hitting on your draft picks. That's the way really good teams do it. If you look at the Chiefs team that won tonight, that team's got a lot of young guys now that are coming up on rookie deals. Guys like Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and L'Jarius Sneed that they've drafted over the last couple of years. That's how they're getting around paying their quarterback a lot of money. They need to get younger and faster on defense, and they need to do it through the draft.
It's all through the draft, just like Bert says, and they got to get on the same page. Bill can't be vacationing and kind of giving the roles to different guys. Bill's got to be on the same page as his scouting department so they can get more hits on the draft.
Okay, younger and faster, but again, Bill likes to draft size over speed. I think he always has. I think he likes still that, the 3-4 that you grew up in, Ted. He wants big linebackers. He wants, he doesn't want undersized guys like on that Georgia defense flying around the field. Those guys are too small for him. Can he evolve his thinking and how he builds his defense?
I think he's got to. I think it's clearly shown that his stubborn kind of way of doing things, it worked in 2018. I think they won a Super Bowl kind of doing it that way. But right now in 2021, that kind of the old school, fighting in a phone booth, running with 2 backs, that's a thing of the past. And you know what? You can have guys on your roster to defend teams like that, but you can't play in, play out, game in, game out, have big thumping linebackers and build your defense like you used to because the game's changing so much.